Okay. So anyways, let's begin the class with our daily Shanti mantra that we usually do. Yeah. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunakatu Sah Vidyankar Pavahai Tejasvinadaditamastu Ma Vidavishawahai. Om Shantish Shantish Shanti. So we have been covering the Mahadashas. We covered the Mars Mahadasha in the last class. So this time we will be looking at Mercury Mahadasha. Okay. And we are not following the order of the Mahadashas. We are following the order of the weekdays while covering the Mahadashas. Okay. So this Mercury Mahadasha, it is a period of 17 years. Okay. And, most of the time it is actually a period of relief because it comes after, a long and grilling 19-year-old period of Saturn. Okay. Where, of course, Saturn makes the native very serious. Okay. Without much sense of humor. Right. And all the native has to do is work, work, and work. So Mercury Mahadasha comes as a relief. Okay, it comes as a relief because now you are back to that optimistic period. Okay, because Saturn, it drives all the optimism out of you. All right, and Mercury Mahadasha is all about learning new things. It's about exploration. Okay, Mercury is the child. Okay, it is the youngest planet, so it's about exploring your interests. All right. And during this period of Mercury, the person usually becomes overly verbal because Mercury rules the house of Gemini. Okay, the original third house. And the person is also extremely eager to learn new things because Mercury is the eternal student. Yes. And this is one reason why during a Mercury Mahadasha, people actually try to attain more degrees, or try to attain a better education. Okay, sometimes you may see that a person has gone to do an MBA at the age of 50, or maybe someone has gone for PhD at the age of 60, and so on. Why? Because all of a sudden they felt this urge, and this urge usually comes during the Mercury Mahadasha period. Okay, and Jupiter is the guru, but Mercury is the teacher. There is a difference between between a teacher and a guru in Sanskrit. Okay, so Mercury is the one who teaches you skills. Okay, and this period of Mercury, as I said, is all about communication, and there is a great urge to to write, or maybe to blogging, or go for public speaking. Okay, or even they sometimes the natives, they have a urge to go towards sales and marketing. Okay, because Mercury represents commerce. All right, for example, a person may have a good career in software development, and all of a sudden the person may start a career in sales and so on. Okay, why? Because Mercury represents commerce, Mercury represents trade. Okay, and it is said that this 17-year period is the best to to explore your childlike curiosity of everything. Okay, because and the other thing is that your Mercury may be debilitated, your Mercury may be your Mercury may be combust. Okay, but Mercury is one planet that is able to adjust anywhere. Okay, it is very adjustable. Yes, it is very adjustable. It can adjust with any sign, or even if it is in a bad conjunction, or even if it is receiving a bad aspect from a malefic planet, it can adjust. So usually what happens, the person will find a way to adjust even if Mercury rules the 8th house or the 11th house in some charts. Okay, and the other thing that happens during a Mercury dasha is that wherever Mercury is placed, you will be the native will be trying to explore the the things represented by the sign. Okay, for example, say Libra, it represents the marketplace. Okay, Libra represents marketplace and government buildings. So the person during Mercury dasha may may want to start a new business, or maybe start a new trade, or maybe try to start a business with the government, involving the government. Okay, Similarly, you see Aquarius, it rules the corporate sector. So the person may wish to maybe having a traditional career as a, say, as an engineer, or you know as a, say, a teacher. Then all of a sudden they may switch careers to the corporate sector, because then Mercury wants to explore everything that the sign of Aquarius represents. Okay. And generally, the person will feel young, youthful internally. Okay, if someone is running the Dasha of Mercury even at the age of 70 or 60, the person will feel young and youthful by his or her thoughts. Okay. So, and if Mercury is conjunct with Rahu, or if Mercury is being aspected by Rahu, or is aspecting Rahu, then the person may get interested in Botox treatments or plastic surgeries. Okay. Or maybe getting a facelift. You see how film actors and actresses do what they do. They modify their nose, some modify their lips. This is all a play of Rahu and Mercury. Okay. And during this time of Mercury, business and management, they assume a very important role in the life of the person. Okay. Because Mercury, as I said, it is the planet of trade, and Mercury also represents money. Okay. That is the reason you see most of the currencies in the world, they are green in color. Okay. Because Mercury represents the color green. Okay. And the person becomes very curious about money, about having a side income, or maybe having multiple streams of income. They become interested in money management, they become interested in budgeting. Okay. And even if someone is in a profession like being a, say, a professor, then such a person will also become interested in marketing himself or herself during this period, so as to grow their bank balance. Okay. The question is, can Mercury give a hard time? Okay, because all I have said is that these are the benefits that Mercury brings. But can Mercury give a hard time? Yes, it can. Okay. So amongst the hard times, it can give diseases that take a long time to heal, because Mercury and Saturn, they are eunuch planets. Okay. So whatever diseases they give, they are usually lifelong, or they take a long time to heal. Okay. So Mercury is the main enemy of Mars. All right. So since Mars represents the nervous system, so Mercury Dasha can afflict the nerves of a person. Okay, Mercury can afflict the nerves of a person. If it is the 8th lord, or if it is the 11th lord, it can cause afflictions to the skin. Okay, so there are ways and means to deal with those problems as well. But usually, these problems, they can be avoided. That is what most people do. Okay, people keep on avoiding their problems, and Mercury is a planet that loves to avoid things. Okay, it'll make you avoid things till the problem becomes so big that it finally impacts your health. And that is how eunuch planets behave. Okay, Saturn starts giving pain, and then people find a way to avoid their pain, and finally the pain becomes unmanageable, and then you have to find a way to manage it, and then people run helter skelter that Saturn has ruined my life, this has happened, that has happened, and whatnot. Okay, so this is about the overview of Mercury Mahadasha. Okay, so we run through Mercury in the houses. Okay, so Mercury has only one aspect, which is the 7th aspect, the direct aspect of 100%. So in the first house, this period of Mercury will bring a desire to attain higher education. Okay, learn a new skill, or wanting to communicate with the masses, or wanting to teach the masses. Okay, so people having Mercury in the first house, unless and until Mercury gets really afflicted by Saturn or Rahu, these people, they are able to maintain a youthful appearance throughout their entire life. Okay, and this appearance is actually enhanced during the period of Mercury. You'll see some old people, old men and women, who have the face of a child. Okay, so this is what happens if Mercury is in the first house. And this period usually brings about many social opportunities, including relationships, because Mercury, it loves to mingle. Okay, Mercury loves to mingle, and from the first house, Mercury aspects the 7th house of other people. Okay, so the whole agenda during this dasha, the whole agenda of the person will be to improve his or her communication abilities. Okay, and also to start something new in the career, because seventh house also represents your career. It represents the business that you do. Okay, so Mercury, since it represents siblings or cousins or friends, so the person will actually be heavily influenced by these people. Okay, siblings or cousins or friends, regarding all major decisions. Okay, so the seventh house aspect of Mercury, it will make a person extremely curious about engaging in relationships, in partners, in partnerships, and creating business relationships. Okay, the relationships that get created when two people are doing the same business together. Okay, and whether exalted or debilitated, Mercury is always curious. So the person will have a have a knack of being curious in everything that he or she does. Okay, and even if Mercury is debilitated, okay, there is a secret that it actually enjoys the experience, because Mercury is one planet that is very curious. Okay, so even it is debilitated, it will actually enjoy the experience of being debilitated, because then it wants to know what will happen. Okay, I am debilitated, now what will happen next? Okay, so this one phrase of what's next, this phrase is always associated with Mercury. Okay, what's next, what's coming up, what's coming up, what's coming up? So this is something that this is something that Mercury does. Okay, so in the second house, Mercury, it brings focus of managing money, of managing one's own or one's family's wealth and assets. Okay, and the person will find a lot of opportunities to to speak or to talk, and and counsel people in the family. Okay, and the eighth house, it actually represents how you manage your money. So the person will acquire new skills in money management. Maybe they can have a wealth manager or a portfolio manager and so on. All right, and the second house, it shows family, wealth, and culture. So the individual will be highly interested speaking, talking, and negotiating their way into increasing their wealth via family. They may even enter into partnerships with their family members. Okay, just for the sake of increasing their bank balance. Okay, so there is also a since the second house represents communication, not communication but voice communication, so they may develop an interest in singing. Okay, or maybe anchoring and so on. And the Mercury in the second house, usually the person will most more often than not will have a good voice. Okay, and the eighth house is the house of debt, so there is always a focus on managing debt. Okay, and sixth house is also the house of debt. Okay, not only the eighth house, sixth house is also the house of debt. So you know Mercury is a natural ruler. Okay, Mercury rules the house of debt because sixth house is the house of Virgo. So the natural sixth house is Virgo. So the person becomes a great money manager. As I said, they may hire a wealth manager or a portfolio manager and so on. Okay, and the other thing is that if Mercury is during the second house, because the second during due to its presence in the second house, because the second house, it represents the face. So if Mercury is aspected by a fiery planet like Mars, okay, then what will happen is the person may get pimples and acne on the face. Okay, so Mercury in the third house, this is a very good position for Mercury to be in. In fact, it is one of the best positions for Mercury to be in. Okay, because the third house, it represents communication. Okay, it represents skills, and Mercury is one planet that must be appeased for learning new skills. Okay, so this period of Mercury in the third house, it becomes very, very fun and very, very enjoyable if the person has a passion for communication, for writing, for sales. Third house also represents marketing. Okay, third house also represents short distance traveling. Okay, and third house, as I said, it is the original house of Mercury because it is ruled by the sign of Gemini. So Mercury is naturally comfortable here. Okay, and there is an urge to find all types of information during this period. All right, and during this dasha, it is a great possibility that one becomes a part of gossip or chit chat, or have they such a person may have a very communicative time with near and dear ones like siblings or friends or cousins. Okay, so since Mercury represents since the third house, it represents short distance travel, so this period of 17 years can actually force the person to travel a lot locally. Okay, and as I said, the third house is also the house of skills, so the person may have to work a lot with his or her hands in terms of writing and doing technical work. Okay, And the communication with others becomes very, very verbal. Okay, whether it is positive or negative communication, the communication becomes very verbal. Okay, now, you know, if Mercury joins fiery planets like Mars and Ketu, then you know, this person will curse a lot during this time. Okay, if Saturn joins such a Mercury, this person will use slang words a lot. Okay, and if Mercury joins fiery planets like Mars or Ketu or both, then there will be a lot of fight with siblings or cousins. Okay, and the person will always look to pick battles with others. It's like, this person leaves home with the only objective of getting offended by others. Okay, so third house is also the house of athletics because Mars is the karaka of this house, and during this period one actually becomes very, very interested in playing sports and games during this time. Okay, now from the third house, Mercury aspects the ninth house, and this brings interest towards higher learning, reading books, philosophy, or even forming a better bond with father and fatherly figures or gurus. Okay, Mercury also represents astrologers. All right, so astrology is represented by Mercury. Okay, there are three karakas for astrology: Mercury, Sun, and Ketu. So Mercury is the main karaka. So because Mercury aspects the ninth house, so one may also encounter astrologers and guides to guide them towards their destiny. Okay, and because ninth house is also the house of long distance travels, so these people they may become very, very curious about broadening their horizon by traveling long distances. Okay, so third house Mercury actually brings a lot of adventure during its dasha. Yeah, so just take a break for a couple of minutes and I'll continue. Okay. All right. So we had covered the third house. Now let's see Mercury, the fourth house. Okay, so not a good position for Mercury to be in because the fourth house is the Maran Karan Sthan of Mercury. Okay, it's the Maran Karan Sthan of Mercury. So Mercury feels very uncomfortable in the fourth house, regardless of the sign. Okay, but then during its Dasha, if it is in a friendly sign or if it is in its own sign, then there would be a lot of effort in improving communication within the home and in dealing with business matters of home, property, and land. Okay. The good thing about Mercury in the fourth house is that it aspects the 10th house of career. Okay. Not career, but the 10th house of work. All right. And, Mercury is the Karaka for the 10th house. It is the main Karaka for the 10th house. So, there, what happens? The person will be very, very focused in his or her work. Okay. And during this time, the person will have a lot of, a lot of need to connect with people. They have lost contact. Okay, because the fourth house is the is the house of love. It is the house of it rules the heart, and it also it also signifies whatever makes us happy. Okay, fourth house is the house of happiness. But as I said, Mercury is not comfortable in by being in the fourth house. Why? Because Mercury does not like to be domesticated. The fourth house is the it is the what to say, it represents the space between the four walls of the house. Okay, but Mercury, it has a natural tendency to communicate with masses. Okay, it likes mass communication rather than communication with the family. But then, as I said, Mercury is the most adaptive planet. So since it's a planet that adopts, adjusts, and enjoys every scenario, you know what we can say is that the person will enjoy making connections from the privacy of their own house through social media. Okay, because that is how Mercury adopts to situations. Yes, I cannot communicate with masses by being in the fourth house, so I'll use social media to communicate. That is how Mercury thinks. All right. And you know these people during the Dasha of Mercury in the fourth house, they can actually end up making fake accounts just to just to communicate with people who are out of their league. Okay, there are some people who are out of your league. Yes, you don't want to reveal your identity to those people. So in that case, you know these people can feel inspired or can get inspired to communicate with people who are out of their league. All right. And the aspect of Mercury, as I said, from the fourth house, Mercury aspects the 10th house. So what it shows is they will try to improve their social structure in the world. Okay, they'll try to complete their pending tasks because the 10th house is the house of completion of work. Okay, and Mercury will still be dealing with people, but since Mercury is present in the fourth house, those dealings will usually happen behind closed doors or in private. Okay, and even though Mercury sits in the fourth house, he is always looking outside the window. He's just like that child looking outside the window and talking to people passing by on the street. Okay, so it's like one is enjoying the comforts of the home but has one ear outside on what is happening at the place outside the four walls of the home. Okay, so Mercury in the fifth house, good placement to be in because the fifth house is the house of mantras. Okay, and especially if this Mercury is joining or being aspected by Rahu, then it gives these people can find some rare mantras that bring siddhis. Okay, now the thing about mantras is that if they are not given by a guru, the mantras don't work. Okay, no matter what it is. All right, people are saying a lot of things about doing Gayatri mantra or doing this mantra or that mantra, but if a mantra is not from the guru, the mantra will not work. Okay, no matter what it is, no matter what people say. We are in the process of automating things. Okay, we have automated everything, but guru is one such factor that or which cannot be automated. Okay, so Mercury in the fifth house during its dasha can actually bring some rare mantras to the individuals. Okay, and that has to be initiated by the guru, of course. All right. So Mercury in the fifth house, it will bring great passion and enjoyment towards speculative business, because fifth house is the house of stock markets. It is the house of learning, teaching, and since Mercury is the eternal learner, it will actually seek out romantic experiences for itself, because the fifth house is the house of romance. Okay, and this Mercury in the fifth house, it will want to write in a creative form. Okay, it will be a creative writer, for example, writing movie scripts, or poems or songs, just to just to attract the opposite gender, or maybe the same gender. Okay, and the 17-year period of Mercury, it will bring many creative interests in a person's life. Okay, and fifth house is also the house of investments, so even these investments, they become a creative process. Okay, how they become creative? Because people will invest, only these people, or people who have Mercury in the fifth house during their dasha, they will invest after a lot of study and analysis. Okay, for example, such a person will use creative his or her creative ability to foresee the rise and fall of a stock. Okay, such a person will also be curious about being informed on political agendas of the country they live in. All right, and as I said, they will also be, not only there will be an interest in learning new mantras, they will also find a lot of interest in areas like astrology and numerology, because Mercury represents astrology. Okay, and as I said, fifth house is the house of romance. So these people will often find themselves having many romantic or flirtatious encounters with the opposite, or with the same sex. Okay, and if Mercury is alone, then these people can actually flirt for ice cream. Okay, if Mercury is alone here, these people can become very, very flirtatious, so flirtatious that they can actually end up flirting just for ice cream. Okay, and if this dasha happens when the person has become an adult, when the person is in their 40s, then such a person can make sure that their children get a good education. They'll ensure that their children are well fed with knowledge, information, and they are participating in games that are fun. Okay, from the fifth house, Mercury aspects the 11th house. Okay, 11th house is the house of desires, and Mercury is the planet of multiplication. So these people will have a lot of desires that they want to fulfill. Okay, and there will be a lot of interest towards increasing one's network circle, and in engaging and connecting with with elder siblings, because 11th house is the house of elder siblings. Okay, and Mercury also represents uncles. All right, so you could actually be gaining through your uncles or through your cousins. Okay, especially from the paternal side. Right, and if Mercury is ruling a good house, for example, if Mercury is the lord of the fifth house, or the lord of the ninth house, or the lord of the of the 10th house, then these people will actually gain quite a lot from businesses that involve speculation, for example stocks, or for example trading, and so on. Okay, then Mercury in the sixth house, again a very good position for Mercury to be in. Okay, sixth house Mercury is very, very good. Okay, because it'll show that the person will always use his brains to come out of troubles rather than bronze. Okay, and there's a good reason why Virgo rules the sixth house, because it shows that you have to use your brains to come out of a situation, not your bronze. Okay, your muscles are useless when it deals with when it comes to dealing with sixth house matters. You have to behave like Mercury. Okay, there is a lot to learn from the original Kalpurus chart. Okay, for example, in the original Kalpurus chart, the fourth house is ruled by moon. So it means you have to use your feelings to deal with fourth house matters. The eighth house is ruled by Mars. Okay, so it means you may have to use force to get a share of your inheritance, and so on. Okay, you have to behave as how the planets dealing with house matters. You have to behave as the planets that rule the houses in the Kalpurus chart. Okay, so the sixth position of Mercury, Mercury in the sixth house, that is, it means that the person will have a gala time in in managing and dealing with the debts of himself or others in the society. Okay, and sixth house is also the house of practicality. So these people will become very practical about their work and communication. Okay, and sixth house also represents the house of service. Okay, so they may become very, very vocal, or they may become very, very vocal. As I said, they may become very, very vocal for issues they strongly connect with. Okay, they may become a voice for the underprivileged, and so on. All right, And there would also be a lot of interaction and communication with servants, because sixth house is the house of servants, or the people who work under you. All right. And sixth house is also the house of, it is the house of immunity. Okay, sixth house is the house of immunity. So there will be a lot of eagerness to learn about new ways of improving health and new diets. Okay, if the dasha happens when the person is young, then the person will be very, very interested in diet and nutrition studies, or maybe studies related to the, to the nervous system. Okay, and this is a place where a person can actually become a great manager or supervisor if Mercury is well placed. Okay, so during its dasha, it can make a person a manager or a supervisor. Okay, and Mercury aspects the 12th house. So what it means is the person may have some kind of erratic sleeping patterns. Okay, because the 12th house is the house of sleep, and any planet going, a planet like Mercury going into the 12th house can disturb sleep. Okay, and since the 12th house is also the house of bondage, so Mercury can have a person bound by a routine of everyday thinking or analysis or micromanagement. Okay, so it can actually make the person go to a foreign land in order to increase their bank balance. Okay, so that is also possible because Mercury aspects the 12th house. So any doubts still here?
No, sir, it's okay. I just wanted to ask you something regarding when you said that Mercury causes, like in say sixth house, Mercury is like debt collection. Would that be the kind of profile you're looking at? Like say six
Managing debts, it could be debt collection as well. Okay, for example,
Okay.
you know
Because I know someone who's a debt collector and has Mercury in the sixth house.
yeah, because because at the end of the day you are, debt collection is also debt, right? And sometimes what happens is, suppose the father of the person, or the the other ancestors, they actually forgot to collect a lot of money from someone. Then all of a sudden this Mercury dasha can make the person go and and seek out money from those who are supposed to pay money to the family. That can also happen. Okay, all right. And sixth house is actually good, okay, for Mercury to be in, because it makes your relatives mean, Mercury rules siblings, friends, and cousins. So it can make your cousins and relatives very, very jealous for you, of you. Okay, but jealousy will come only when you are doing good or doing better than them. Otherwise, not. Okay, so it will actually make you do better than your cousins or friends or siblings, so that everyone starts getting jealous of you. So in a way, it can be good for your development. Okay. All right, then. Mercury in the seventh house, not a good position for Mercury to be in, because a child feels trapped in marriage. Okay, and that is what exactly happens to Mercury. Okay, so here during the Dasha, the person can have a hard time, in maintaining diplomacy in relationships, in marriage and business partnerships. Okay, and the whole focus will be towards the spouse, towards business, and making large amounts of network connection. And this is the time, because the seventh house also represents the the house of others. It represents the other people. So during this time, the person will come across many, many strangers, so maybe good or bad, as per the as per the house placement of Mercury, assigned placement of Mercury, sorry. So for example, a salesperson, you know can come across hundreds of people in a single day to make connections with. Okay, and someone who is doing administrative work in a cubicle, that person might not come across many people, and that can be a source of frustration, because Mercury, the child, it wants to explore the seventh house. Okay, and this is one period where the person can engage in trade most often than not. All right, Mercury loves doing negotiations, trades, and business, and this is the perfect house to do such activities. Okay, but then if Mercury is not supported by a planet like Saturn or Jupiter, then one can become very flirtatious in seeking out new partners. Okay. And if Mercury is debilitated, then such a person can actually have a lot of affairs that may damage the reputation of his or her family. Okay. And because Mercury is aspecting the first house from the seventh house, it means that the person will go towards self improvement, through communication, through relationships and business. All right. And they will find themselves learning more and attaining more information when, when meeting new people. Okay. And because Mercury is aspecting the first house, the person's appearance will become more youthful during this time. Okay. Or, if this Mercury is joining or being aspected by Rahu, then these people will try to look their best by, by surgery, or by, by diet plans, or even by hitting the gym. Okay. If a planet like Mars is joining this Mercury, these people can actually find interest in going to the gym all of a sudden. Okay. So Mercury in the eighth house, good position for Mercury to be in. Okay. So always remember this about benefics. Jupiter in the sixth house, freedom from enemies. Mercury in the eighth house, great management of money. Venus in the 12th house, you can get all the comforts and luxuries, but that can happen at the cost of losing your spouse. Okay. So, Jupiter does very good in the sixth house, Mercury does very good in the eighth house, and Venus does very good in the 12th house. Okay. So, in the eighth house, this period of Mercury, it will bring great interest and curiosity towards the occult, mysticism, and understanding the darker side of life. Okay. People can also make an effort to understand their own psychological baggage. Okay. Just a minute. Okay, so as I said, these people during this period can also take a leap of faith to understand your own psychological baggage, because the eighth house represents your hidden psychological secrets that you may or may not share with the world. All right. And because Mercury represents cousins or friends, so your cousins or friends may be doing research, maybe some studies to become a detective, or maybe to be in tax office. Okay. This is a good position for people to become collectors, to have a career as tax collectors. Okay. It is also good for research. All right. And this period also brings about communication in secrecy. All of a sudden the person may be hired by a secret agency like raw, or maybe FBI, to out of the blue. Okay. Some hirings in these intelligence services, they happen out of the blue. The person is walking on the street, and all of a sudden they are picked up and they are enrolled into secret communication or spy agencies. Okay. If Mercury is afflicted, then these people, they can try to sell the secrets of their nation to other enemies. Okay. They will have a great knack towards discovering hidden information, and always keeping quiet about it. Okay. And if you want to know who is the best person for sharing secrets, it is that person with Mercury in the eighth house, which is in a good position. Okay. If you're sharing secrets with a person whose Mercury is in a very good position, your secrets will never be leaked. Okay. But if you're sharing secrets with a person whose Mercury is debilitated in the eighth house, then your secrets are gone. Okay. So during this period, there can also be a attainment of family secrets or letters and gossip as well. And this is a placement where Mercury feels like the phoenix. Okay. Because no matter how difficult the situation becomes, because of the eighth house affairs, Mercury always tends to rise out of it through communication, through attaining hidden knowledge and so on. Okay. So Mercury aspecting the second house from the eighth house, it shows that one will be secretly trying to attain family assets and wealth, and keeping themselves well informed about their in-laws and the family affairs of the spouse, because the eighth house, it represents the house of the spouse. Yes, the family of the spouse, that is. And there'll also be a lot of interest in managing family finances and debts. Okay. And because the eighth house represents the house of suddenness, so some people during the dasha can also attain property during this time. Okay. And why does that happen? Because the eighth house is the fifth from the fourth house. Okay. So there can be a sudden gain of property. All right. Then Mercury in the ninth house. So It brings about a lot of luck through higher education. Okay, sudden interest in traveling, long distance traveling, right? Sudden interest in religion and higher philosophy, which which appeals to the analytical or the logical mind. Okay, and there will be tremendous amount of conflict, or sorry, there will be a tremendous amount of communication with the father or gurus. Okay, and that communication may be good or bad depending upon the position of Mercury. All right, and one can actually become a good teacher during this time. Okay, because this is the time to not only learn about higher values, it is also the time to teach higher values. Okay, to become curious about theological inquiries with people who know them. Okay, there could be there could be an urge to seek out people who have a lot of theological knowledge. Okay, just a minute, there is someone at the door. Okay, this was opened anyways. So as I said, from the ninth house, there is this aspect of Mercury on the third house. So there is a need to, to publish literary works and to be heard across a distance. Okay. The native will also engage in learning about the law because the ninth house is the house of law. Okay. And that will be on a personal basis. Okay. Just out of curiosity, the native may start learning law. All right. And since Mercury also represents cousins and friends, so the friends and cousins or the native may be traveling to long distances. Okay, and the native themselves might travel to earn a bit of of learning experience. Okay, and Mercury aspecting the third house, so the native may end up enrolling in a lot of skills. Okay, they will be eager to write and share their higher knowledge with others, especially their friends and cousins and other family members. Okay, so Mercury in the 10th house. So very good position for Mercury to be in. Okay, the native is brilliant at making short-term plans, but bad at making long-term plans. Okay, because Mercury represents short-term plans. Jupiter represents long-term plans. Okay, so these people, they cannot see beyond a certain point. Okay, while making plans. All right. But 10th house, Mercury, it's good for earning money. Okay. It makes it creates an excellent manager and professional communicator during this dasha. Okay, and these people, they love to communicate like a politician or a corporate public relation professional. Okay, and the communication will have only one motive, that is how to gain status in the career and in the society. Okay, and these people, they will be very measured. Okay, if Mercury is well placed, they'll be very measured in speaking every sentence and every syllable. Okay, they'll be very measured in improving one's condition in the career. All right, and most of the time this period, it brings about a position in management, teaching, communication, okay, marketing or law. And Mercury always loves to show the ability to communicate. Okay, the ability to to write for the purpose of improving his or her career. Okay, and the person will always be inclined towards a career where such things can easily happen. Okay, so Mercury aspecting the fourth house, it will also transform the natives' communication towards family and home, and they will be very, very focused, disciplined, and practical in handling the matters of home. Okay, there is also a lot of curiosity towards bringing professional people and that professionalism into the home environment. So if Mercury is debilitated, your office politics can actually affect your family life during this period. Okay, so the person will be more inclined towards inviting his or her co-workers and bosses to home, maybe for a maybe for a conversation or discussion, or maybe for career related issues. Okay, Mercury in the 11th house. So 11th house is the house of networking. Okay, so communication is very, very essential in networking. 11th house is also the house of collaborations. It is the house of making connections or improving one's business or one's knowledge. So Mercury actually does good in the 11th house. Okay, so because during this period the person will be using his or her mental capacity to fulfill his or her wishes and desires, and there will be a lot of business dealings with the elder siblings that will benefit the children of the native. Okay, there will be a great focus on communicating in a large organization or corporation. Okay, and the native can actually end up becoming a marketing professional or a sales manager. Okay, and the communicative pattern of the person will always be in regards to making social friendships. Yes, so they'll have more enthusiasm towards arranging, parties and events, because the 11th house is the house of networking. And these parties and events will be arranged so that the native can increase, can increase their contacts or can expand their contact list. And it's like arranging a party to, get phone numbers and email addresses. Okay, it's just like how people run Facebook ads to generate leads. Okay, this is similar to that. Okay, so those people who actually are experts at running Facebook ads, they will have a very good Mercury either linked to the 11th house or in the 11th house. Okay, or maybe the 11th house will be ruled by a mercurial sign. Okay, so if Mercury is debilitated, or if it is in Kemadruma, Kemadruma means no planet on either side of Mercury. Okay, Kemadruma happens to all planets. It does not only happen to the moon, it happens to all planets. So if Mercury is in Kemadruma, or if Mercury is debilitated, then these people will actually try to be the part of an organization where their skills can be utilized from behind the scenes. Okay, and there is much more appreciation for the, for the marketplace and financial institution by not showing the face. They will try to be behind the scenes and improve the finances of wherever they work. Okay, so this aspect of Mercury to the 5th house, it can show one's desire and networking. Okay, and it can also lead to romantic encounters within the office. Okay, it can also make the native fulfill the desires of their children, attaining connections to help in speculative business and to increase their education. Okay, and there will be a need to have more fun and games in the life of the native, because the 5th house is the house of exploration, the house of fun. And one may also end up doing business dealings with their cousins and friends. Okay, so Mercury in the 12th house, difficult position for Mercury to be in, because 12th house Mercury affects your sleeping pattern. Okay, because Mercury is the earth element, and the original 12th house is ruled by Pisces. So every time Mercury goes into the 12th house, it's like putting mud into the water that muddies the water. Okay, Pisces is pure, clear water. But if a planet like Mercury goes into the 12th house, it is like mudding the clear waters of Pisces. Okay, so as a result, you know the person can have disturbed sleeping cycles or sleeping patterns. Okay, so during the Mahadasha, the native can experience long distance travel to foreign lands. Okay, with regards to education, or business conferences or business dealings. Okay, and one's communication can become very private, or will occur only amongst people of foreign lands. Okay, and sometimes the native may find himself or herself retreating to some isolated place to express themselves communicatively. Okay, and this can actually be good if one is a natural writer, because sometimes a writer needs to be isolated to communicate with the entire world. All right, and because Mercury also represents skills, so the skills will usually be used in places like scientific laboratories or hospitals or asylums or jails. So any place that is isolated from the rest of the world, the native will look to improve his or her, will look to implement his or her skills. Okay, and this is one position where the analytical mind works best, because 12th house is the house of isolation. So the analytical mind, it works best only when the native is alone. Okay, and generally what happens is native will seek out opportunities to get bed pleasures with the opposite gender. Okay, they also may become the part of the accounting team, or the accounting, they may become an accountant, or they may get to manage the finances of some spiritual organization. Okay, so the aspect of this Mercury and the 6th house, it shows that one wants an everyday routine of writing or speaking and blogging for their everyday living. Okay, they would also, since the 6th house is the house of service, so they would want to be a voice for the voiceless, for social welfare and for social reform. Okay, they may also engage in animal welfare, because 6th house is the house of pets. All right, so they can also end up managing other people's debt. Okay, so this aspect can also make a great accountant, because working with numbers or crunching numbers usually happens from behind the scenes. Okay, because wherever there is an accountant, the role of an accountant or the job of an accountant is always to be the invisible financial force in a business. So this is a good position for someone to actually pursue a career as an accountant, especially during Mercury Dasha. Okay, so we'll stop here for today, and if you have any questions, I welcome them.
I have a question, sir.
Yeah, Shannon.
How would Mercury behave in the sign of Libra on the 3rd?
Libra, it will want to explore the things that are associated with Libra. Libra means business. Okay, Libra is a sign of business. Libra is the sign of government institutions, of tall buildings. Libra is also the sign of corporate affairs, not corporate offices, but corporate affairs. Libra actually represents the marketplace. Okay, so it will be it will want to explore these things related to Libra, and depending on the house, it will also try to explore the house matters related to suppose it is in the 4th house. So how is it, how can it do business within the confinements of the home? Suppose it is in the 5th house, and how can it do business within the stock market? How can it be a part of the stock market? So everything will come into play.
It's in the 3rd. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank
It will
you.
be focused on business communication.
Thank you.
All right then. So we'll have the Kala Sarpa class this Tuesday. Okay, the Saturday class that we missed, we'll have it this Tuesday, and I hope to see you on this, on board at 8 o'clock this Tuesday. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right then. Thank you so much for joining in. I'll see you for the Kala Sarpa class on Tuesday. Okay. Om Gurave Namaha.
Have a good week, guys.
You too. Bye bye.